so there's no use continuing the present policy. It is obviously wrong, or the individual wouldn't be in trouble all the time. This, again, is a problem that affects good people. People who have tried very hard, but who have lost a certain sense of security. They have been thrown out into a universe that is too big for them, and they weren't smart enough to swim to shore as quickly as possible. And most of these people must learn to swim to shore. And to start all over again in the effort to establish a basic groundwork for self-improvement. We often find that other factors do contribute to this situation. Nearly every religious organization and most people involved in them become gradually more or less unnatural personal ways of living. They get into trouble this way also, unfortunately. We have all kinds of trick diets. We have all kinds of special exercises. We have individuals forcibly removed or deprived of the common expressions of life which have been theirs over a period of years. We find them gradually developing various frustrations on the ground that the more frustrated they are, the more spiritual they are. This is a good way to get good and sick quick, because the human being cannot take these inconsistent procedures without having some background for them. Now, it is true that every so often you will find a hermit or an old saint in legend or actual history, perhaps, who has gone away into the desert, into the mountains, into the forest, and there built his hermitage, and has lived peacefully and quietly apart from the concerns of man, and has practiced his Tao or his Zen or his Yoga for half his lifetime in perfect peace and tranquility. Nothing unfortunate ever happened to him so far as we know, but sometimes we're not quite sure how far we know. But at the same time, the rumors are that he's done well. Well, this is all right. It's quite understandable. There are people like this in every human society. There are individuals who are born for the cloisters and are never happy till they go there. There are people who have always wanted to live strange lives of unselfish dedication to other people. They're really most content in some field of religious service. They have no strong attachments to worldliness. They find material living uncomfortable and unpleasant. They do not want to run away into doing nothing, so they would rather live in a dedicated service to some cause. And many of these people are very useful, and they do wonderful jobs. But they are generally useful and do well under the strong supervision of a system. And they become teachers of the young, or nurses of the sick, or guardians of the aged, or something of this nature. But they live and function, and their religious life is dedicated to rather practical, commonplace labors, which they perform in the name of their higher spiritual ideals. Now this, in many instances, works out very well. But to take everyone, to take people from here and there and everywhere, and impose these kinds of restrictions on them, will most certainly in psychological and probably physical disorders. These people are not so constituted that such a program is reasonable or practical for them. This is what happened in the development of Buddhism, where the Southern School divided from the Northern School. The Southern School taught distinctly and definitely that there was only one way to achieve illumination, and that was to leave the world completely, utterly, and immediately, and never come back again. To turn from the common life to the road, to give up every possession, to give up every attachment, to give up every worldly attitude and even every worldly responsibility, and go out with a begging bowl and one small square of cloth, and keep on wandering and meditating until consciousness or death ended the procedure. This was not, however, the Buddhism that gradually unfolded the great arts, the great cultures, the great mystics and idealists of the Mahayana system. Man gradually came to realize that somehow the great spiritual truths had to be brought within the range of his common life. It became necessary for him to think of the way of liberation for the household, that the father and mother with children and family and business had to have their part in this great pattern of enlightenment. That it wasn't to leave everything and to depart into the unknown, but in some mysterious way to increase in grace, insight, and understanding every day, to find in the commonplace the source of enlightenment and inspiration, and also to realize that for the majority of mankind, simple idealistic devotion to principles is the wisest and best way to grow. But sometimes, if the person has the internal requisites, if he had brought forward with him from some previous life a degree of insight that called for the development of some extrasensory perception, it would come in due time of itself. And of course, in the northern Buddhist system, that was the last thing anybody asked for or expected. They did not practice their religion in the hopes that some initiation or mystical experience would occur to them. They practiced their religion because they believed that their religion was the proper way of life. That if they lived this and lived it well, and kept the law, they would fulfill their responsibility to God and themselves. The whole purpose underlying this religious philosophy was not the unfoldment of the individual primarily. It was obedience to the law, the glorification of truth by keeping its rules and principles, and keeping them unselfishly, not in hope of enlightenment, but because this was the proper labor of an enlightened human being.